Hi, you. It's me, Nicole Phoenix Star, and this is a Nick Star podcast. So, I had quite the experience last weekend. I went to a Sacred Earth concert. And Sacred Earth are a ensemble that sing kind of modernized and unique mantras. And I bought the tickets ages ago. The ticket, not tickets. The ticket ages ago, and kind of forgot about it. And it came up, and yeah, I have never seen them live, although I have played their music and had it part of my life since 2011, when actually I was in a spa in Sanur in Bali, and they were playing one of their CDs while I was getting massage, and it moved me so much that I was crying these like beautiful tears to the music. And the massage therapist, who I knew quite well, said to me, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, this music's just so beautiful. It's making me cry in the most beautiful way." And the next time I went back, she had burnt a CD for me. And then um, I started playing it a lot, and I ended up buying the album so I could have it on my Apple Music and in my phone and whatnot, and use different songs off it to make different playlists, and incorporated it into my life. And when I um, went to the concert, like, I kind of had forgotten how integral it was in my life during that extraordinary time of extreme growth and evolution and profound times. Yeah, it was wild because they were talking on stage around, you know, they're in their hometown, and I didn't realize that Yamundi was their hometown, or that area of the Sunshine Coast, and said, we met when we were young, and when we first started playing music, we used to play over in the market. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't realize kind of the history or the backstory of all of this, and how they stopped music for a while and did yoga teacher training and taught yoga, and then got pulled back into music and weren't sure what they were going to sing, because before, I think they used to kind of sing like folk music type stuff. And so they thought they'd try out, singing some of the mantras that they had become familiar with during the yoga teacher training. And as they said, the rest is history, 20 years on. And she said, I think it's turned out okay, because they have traveled the world, and really have a huge reach, and have been full-time musicians for a very long time. And I didn't realize they had children, and two of their girls got up and sang, and they talked about, traveling the world with babies and breastfeeding on stage and all of this stuff. And I kind of got a lot more insight into them, and the second, the concert went for 2 hours, and the first hour was um, just kind of like an experience of listening. And then in the second hour, they started singing a Gayatri mantra. And that's when all this remembering came back, because I had spent hundreds of hours in a cave at the Gununkawi temple, which is the Valley of the Kings. And it's where I had learnt the Gayatri mantra by singing to their song of Gayatri mantra. And it all came flashing back to me, that I had learnt the Gayatri mantra from singing to one of their songs in that cave for so many hours in that cave. And, I took quite a lot of people into it. It's a very blessed experience. You have to have permission to go in there, and not many people are allowed in there. And I was able to take quite a few groups and people through there over, I guess, a decade period. But that 2011, 2012 primarily, I guess, was where it all happened. And there's so many times, like, I was in the cave with Swami, who was my tantric teacher, and I used to spend hundreds of hours in his cave. And one of my practices was I used one of their songs, or two of their songs really, and it was such a pivotal thing. And I was just like going across all these timelines and remembering all these events and all of these things that happened, and the explosive evolution happening to me with the soundtrack of this music that I didn't kind of really remember or recognize until that I was sitting on the floor in front of them. And yeah, it was just like all these timelines collapsing all over me, and I was remembering all of these like different scenes and kind of chapters and seasons, and where so much of their music was the soundtrack to that. And then I was like remembering that, it's been so long since I've been in Yamundi, like maybe even 15 years since I'd actually driven. And when I was driving in, I, knew that road so well, because before I moved from the Sunshine Coast to Bali, like, I'd been very familiar with that area, so much so the last time I got arrested was on the Yamundi road. But that's another story. Okay. And I remember once kind of being in so much suffering and kind of losing my mind running through the Yamundi markets after a fractured time of great trauma and heartache and heartbreak. And here I was sitting in the School of Arts listening to these people that had sung me through so many seasons of healing and so much growth. And, it's 2011 to 2013 was the most exponential evolutionary time of my life. And, stepping into that, I was so broken and heartbroken, because my children had been kept in Australia when I moved to Bali, and I spent those almost 2.5 years, only seeing them during school holidays, and that time that I had in between seeing them and being a very part-time parent allowed me to go into a practice and an awakening that I never knew was possible, available, or a thing. So I am eternally grateful for my ex-husband doing that. At the time, it was horrendous and horrific and excruciating to be separated from my children that I'd only ever been apart from for about a week. And I think, being so broken was part of the blessing to be able to surrender into, the path of Hinduism that I stumbled upon and found discipline and liberation and freedom and everything I'd been seeking outside of myself my whole life. And knowing that spaciousness from the household or parenting thing was a divine cosmic lineup for me to be able to do what happened. And I hadn't kind of taken the time of great reverence and recognition because things just become normalized over time. And as I was sitting on the floor in front of Sacred Earth in New Monday last weekend, all of this pre-Bali, all of Bali, and that very moment kind of wove into this experience that left me feeling completely off my face and so expanded and in awe. And, then I remembered all these extraordinary events I've had in my life, like extreme. And I don't know, it's fascinating because I don't chase experiences, and I never ever had. Like a pursuit for happiness and seeking it outside of myself for many years kind of landed me by default in quite extraordinary circumstances, experiences, and situations, which some at times were quite dangerous and downright outrageous. But this fire inside me to find peace was outrageously strong, and the journey was an extraordinary cadence of horrendous to hilarious to exquisite. And it's so fascinating, this return back to the Sunshine Coast and how content I feel all the time. And I don't run around a lot, nor do I have extraordinary experiences, nor do I have any burning desire to bank anymore in my extreme amount of experiences, because the aspiration for peace is actually lived as contentment. And that's what I wanted all along. And I have no doubt that I will have whatever experiences for the rest of my life that I do. And I realize it's fascinating, so many people kind of chase the high of connection that they can often experience at retreat or doing plant medicine or even extreme sports and stuff. Like, they chase the high, that feeling of, pure consciousness that can be had in a moment or in a sacred space or whatever. And I have so many that have come out of the darkest places as well. And I don't know, like, I just see this constant chase in so many people, always trying to relive the high. And yeah, it's something I've really been observing about myself. I'm like, are you just getting old and you don't want to run around having extreme, helical, sometimes borderline, extreme or dangerous or unimaginable experiences? Or is it contentment that, you can find the magic in the most mundane and experience pure connection in any moment? And, that is the awakened realization state. And, the fact that I am spending a whole year on one teaching being the awakened realization state with a group of core women that have studied this for many years and, has always been the aspiration, is no surprise. It's just having these moments, these spontaneous moments of like complete awareness of that and being able to have all these timelines collapse on each other as one experience in one moment, and to feel all of that, every emotion all at once, because you've built a capacity to do so. And that is beyond any drug trip I've ever had ever in my life. When the drug hits and you feel like you're about to explode, or you're in the height of emotion and you shut it down, to be able to let it go, to fully surrender to the lived experience. Yeah, that's the point of life. So that's what I did on the weekend. Went to watch concert and wasn't really sure why, and knew the band, but didn't realize the depth that they had impacted my soul and woven through my being and rippled through to so many people that have journeyed with me and beyond. Hundreds and hundreds of people that I've journeyed with, and yeah, it's wild. This tapestry of the human condition, and yeah, such a precious realization for me. And so much of that soundtrack to this life has been Sacred Earth and deepest bow to their music and their medicine and the divine cosmic moment that I was in that spa and heard that music and was gifted something so pivotal to my life. So yeah, that's all I got today. Yeah. Terima kasih Tuhan. Okay. Thank you so much for listening. I'm so grateful. So, so grateful. My website is www.nickstar.com, NIKSTARR. Much love.